The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has its roots in the late 19th century, driven by rising nationalism among both Jews and Arabs in the region. Following the establishment of the Israel in 1948, a series of wars and ongoing disputes over land, sovereignty, and rights have perpetuated a cycle of violence, culminating from significant escalations such as the recent Hamas-led attack on October 7, 2023, a day that changed everything. Hamas has launched a coordinating surprising attack on Israel, firing over 5,300 rockets and breaching at the Gaza-Israel barriers. This marks the first significant invasion of Israeli territory since 1948, resulting in approximately 1,205 deaths, primarily civilians, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the decades-long conflict. In retaliation, Israel initiated a military offensive against Gaza, which led to the extensive destruction and a humanitarian crisis affecting nearly all of Gaza's 2.4 million residents. On October 10th, the destruction was unprecedented. October 8, Hezbollah joined the fray, launching rockets into northern Israel, heightening fears of broader conflict. In the aftermath of the attacks, around 251 individuals were taken hostage by Hamas, with ongoing efforts to secure their release becoming a focal point for Israeli authorities. October 14th, Egypt, Israel, and the United States agreed to allow foreigners in Gaza to pass through the Rafah border crossing into Egypt. November 1st, Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp, the most populous refugee camp in the region, is hit by a second airstrike according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. In November 2023, a 4-day temporary truce was brokered. Hamas released 50 hostages in exchange for 150 Palestinian detainees, allowing humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza. November 5th, thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters came together to call for a ceasefire and end to the siege on the Gaza Strip at a march in Washington, D.C.'s Freedom Plaza. The Rafah border crossing became critical for aid delivery as Israel conducted limited operations against Hamas, leading to the increased tensions and attacks in the area. At least 10,022 people have died in Gaza since the Israel-Hamas war began on October 7th. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry said on October 6th. Now on October 10th, the fighting around Al-Shifa, a hospital in Gaza, intensified as a strike hits the courtyard outside the hospital. The hospital loses power and ceases functioning as a hospital. The global community reacted with widespread condemnation of the violence. Protests and demonstrations occurred worldwide, reflecting deep divisions over the conflict and calls for humanitarian aid to Gaza. Also, the International Court of Justice ruled that Israel's action violated international law, adding pressure on Israel from the global community. The brutal execution of 6 hostages by Hamas intensifying calls for action from Israeli officials and heightening public anxiety regarding those still held captive in May. Negotiations continued with international mediators involved. The UN General Assembly called for an immediate ceasefire, but divisions remained deep as both sides clung to their demands. As tensions escalated, Iran and Hezbollah intensified their involvement, threatening retaliation against Israeli actions and complicating the already volatile situations. September 28, Hezbollah has confirmed the death of its leader, Hassan Nasrallah, following a large-scale Israeli airstrike on the densely populated neighborhood in Beirut on Friday. The conflict has also seen increased tensions with Iran, particularly following missiles attacks attributed to Iranian forces. Israel's leadership has indicated a readiness to respond decisively to any threats from Iran and its proxies in the region.